Hi everybody, this is Tom from Rocket Restorations, and today I got a really cool car for you. This is one of my personal favorite Mopars. This is a 1969 Dodge Dart Swinger 340. And not only is it a 340 car, it's a 4-speed car, and it's red. What a cool car. So if you guys missed it, I did a video on an estate sale down in Oregon last weekend. If you haven't seen the video, please go to our back catalog and take a look at it. It says 340 4-speed Swinger, Oregon estate sale. So we got this and that red Challenger over there, hiding behind the Rampage. Got both of these, and it's really funny. I did the video and people were way more excited about the Dart than the Challenger. I was a little surprised by that. You know, it used to be everybody was E-body everything, but people really like people tend to really like this car. It's a really nice car. So what was the 340 Swinger? So this was kind of a bit of a way for Dodge to kind of copy Plymouth a little bit. So in '68, the Roadrunner came out, and the whole point of the Roadrunner was, you know, cheap muscle car, you know, lightness, you know, no options, get the base price down as low as you can. I mean, the base price on the Roadrunner was under $3,000 that year. And Dodge kind of, you know, basically copied the formula. So they came out with the Super Beat, which came out, you know, halfway through '68. Dodge was pretty skeptical about the whole Roadrunner thing, but they saw how successful it was and how many cars they sold. And then in '69, you know, Dodge decided they wanted to have and basically another version of it. So there were performance darts for a while. I mean, the Dart GT came out in '64. That was kind of the, you know, luxury, you know, quote unquote performance model, although, you know, you still get a slant 6 in them, but they got bucket seats, console, and everything. And in '67, that was kind of the big redesign on the Dart. So the, you know, the 66 was a smaller body. In '67, they went to a bigger body on them, you know, just so they could fit more engine options in them. And they were just a much bigger car, bigger engine bay, longer wheelbase, and in my opinion, better looking. But '67, they came up with the idea of the Dodge Dart GTS. So they obviously had the GT, which is bucket seats, you know, bit more trim, you know, a bit of luxury there, but they came out with what was called the GTS, which is the GT Sport, and that was the big block '67 Dart. Really cool idea on those. You know, stuff the big block in here. That was kind of a Mr. Norms thing. So if you don't know who Mr. Norms was, he was a high performance dealer in Chicago, very famous for his, you know, they built a lot of race cars, so a lot of Hemi cars, basically anything performance. They would dyno tune your car, they would modify it. There's a lot of stuff that they came up with over the years that, you know, Chrysler probably wouldn't have done it if it weren't for them. They asked them to put a big block in the Dart because, you know, Dart was the smallest car and they wanted the biggest motor in it. You know, Chrysler kind of told them, you know, oh, that's not possible. And then Mr. Norms did it in their back shop, and then, you know, it became a factory option in '67. But that was the GTS Dart. And then '68, they kind of built on the formula a little bit more. You know, '67, '68, '69 Darts are all pretty similar. The body's basically the same. They just kind of changed the grille, tail lights, and the side markers. You know, '67 didn't have any side markers. '68 had the round ones. '69 had the rectangle reflectors right there. But '68, they came out with the 340 motor. So you get a 273 4-barrel in '67, but it really, I mean, obviously it was a performance motor, but they really didn't have that much horsepower. And the '68 340 was really their chance to kind of have an all-out small block. And, you know, they were 275 horse. They came up with special exhaust manifolds for them, like these. And this 340 I just bought. How cool are those things? They flow really well. You know, 4-barrel carburetors, high compression. They were really hot cars. But again, that was the GTS. So they were, you know, they weren't expensive cars. It was still a Dart. You know, Darts weren't super expensive, but you know, they had bucket seats. They had, you know, consoles were optional. They were kind of marketed as kind of an upscale Dart. So in '69, you know, kind of everything carried over from '68. You know, they still had the GTS and everything, but they decided to come up with the Swinger package. And they were 340 only in '69. But the whole point of this was to make the cheapest car possible with the biggest performance, basically. So these things were generally very low option cars. Even the cigarette lighter was optional on these. Like, a cigarette lighter was not standard on these cars. You had to pay for that. It was like $4 or something. You had to pay for it. They all had bench seats. I'll go over some of this interior stuff here in a bit. They all had bench seats. You know, I think even the rear armrests were optional. That was not standard on these things. And of course, this was 1969, so, you know, it was flower power, you know, hippies, swingers, you know, blah, blah, blah. That's kind of what they came out with, you know, with all the stuff on this. But, you know, the swinger was a really neat package. They had hood pins were optional. This does not have factory hood pins. Fortunately, it's a separate hole right there. But they had the bulge hood on it with the 340 4-barrel inserts on there. Really nice touch on there. The Bumblebee was standard on them. You know, it's a Dart swinger on it. The GTS had a stripe too, but it was, you know, obviously Dart GT Sport on it instead of swinger. Really nice touch. The GTS had a finish panel. These basically just had an emblem back there. You know, anywhere where they could cut costs on this to make them a little bit cheaper, they did. They said it was just a really neat package. You know, light as possible, cheap as possible. Just all about performance, you know. And this was the 340 4-speed here. This is really cool. It has small bolt pattern Kragers on it. Pretty rare to find now. They're in decent shape, but I think you can always tell on these things because cats always pee on them. They always take the chrome off, so you can see down there like the chrome's bad on that on the top. So that's where it sat all those years. So this was at least unrecover in Oregon, but you know, obviously sitting didn't do it any favors. See that bracket in there right there? That's through the Z-bar. So the Z-bar went through the inner fender there, but they had to have a reinforcement there so it wouldn't, you know, crack the inner fender, because pushing that Z-bar up and down takes a lot of effort. You can see factory sway bar on these. They had the extra heavy duty torsion bars. So even though they were cheap without any trim, they still had all the stuff that you'd really want on one of these things. The VIN is up on the dash on this thing. So it says L, which is Dart. M is medium price class. So the GTS was S. This was M for medium. 23 is 2-door hardtop. P is the 340 engine. 9 is 1969 for the year. B is Hamtramck plant. And then the sequence number is 438814. Really late build car. So let me show you the fender tag underneath here. Engine bay is pretty clean on this. The hood springs are a little weak, so I think this hood's been replaced. I think it probably had a fiberglass hood on. They had weaker springs on it or something, because it does stay up, but it kind of takes a lot of effort to get up there. Really clean engine bay in here. Somebody added disc brakes at some point to this thing. You see the disc brake master cylinder there, and then you look behind here and it's got the 4-piston Kelsey Hayes disc brakes. So the disc brakes were optional on these things. They were never standard on a Dart. They're a decent system, but they do cost a lot of money to fix. Somebody added to this. So here's the fender tag. Really plain fender tag on here. Not very many options. Again, as in the spirit of the car. I mean, you can still get all the options on this, but you know, it was a swinger. Most people didn't. So E55 is 340. Wanted to share with you some of these dealer data books from Dodge. These have a lot of really good information in them. So back up some of the fender tag info with some of the info from these books. So here's the data book. This has like all the information for Dodge, like how to order them, all that fun stuff. Designed to help each Dodge buyer make the important and personal kinds of choices and decisions he will be happy with now and remain happy all the time he is driving his Dodge. Because women can't drive Dodges, of course. I actually have Charger 500 in here, which is interesting. Charger 500. The Dart section. There's a GTS Dart right there. As I mentioned right there. Oh, that's a swinger. Oh, nice. It's actually a swinger, not a GTS. Very cool. By the way, these cars are really easy cars to restore. Like, there is like probably not an easier Mopar to restore. All you've got is the stainless front and back, chrome around the wing windows, bumpers, grille, and some headlight trim. There's no side trim. There's no wheel lip molding trim. Very, very simple cars. Really not much to them. Also, another quick side note. Notice on the car, it's got a blacked out grille. That's what the grille's supposed to look like. So kind of chrome in the middle. So they basically left bright aluminum every other fin and then blacked out the other ones. That is an extremely difficult grille to restore. I mean, you have to re-anodize it, but doing the masking and painting is kind of a nightmare. Here's the 340 engine, standard on the GT Sport. They call it GT Sport, not GTS, in Swinger 340. This hot new engine cuts 2 seconds off the 0 to 60 time, in 5.6 seconds in the 50 to 60 time, in the old 273 4-barrel. Forged crankshaft, double roller timing chain and sprockets, 4-barrel carburetor, dual exhaust system, unsilenced air cleaner, special camshaft. Air conditioning and power steering are available with this engine. 275 horse, 340 foot-pounds of torque, needs premium fuel. Standard axle ratios, 3-2-3 with a 4-speed and the automatic. D21 is 4-speed. And here's the transmission chart from the data book. It's really interesting. So the 3-speed was standard, except on the GT Sport and Swinger 340. It was interesting. 70, they really started to cheapen these up. So the Roadrunner, the 4-speed was standard. Automatic was no cost option. But in 70, they made the 3-speed manual standard just to get the base price down. That was kind of a famous thing they would do. 4-speed manual with the right A-body shifter right there. Low gear is 266, which I believe was lower on an A-body than the other ones, if I'm not mistaken. Standard on the Swinger 340. The torque flight column mounted was optional on the Swinger. Optional, but no cost. And then you get a console mounted one, automatic, but that was extra cost because you had to pay for the console. Also forgot to mention on the 4-speed, you got a reverse warning light on the dash, which this car does have. LM23P9B is the VIN, which we just went over. R4 is the color. That says R4 twice. So R4, the first one is for the top color. So this one did not have a vinyl top, did not have a painted top or anything like that. So it's just R4. It's the same as the bottom. This one's a separate book, so it's the color and upholstery book here. And the colors are right over here. This book's really cool. So they would add stuff during the year, and a lot of times you find these data books, it doesn't have this stuff. But when the Hemi Orange, Bright Green, Bahama Yellow, and Bright Red became available halfway through the year, this actually got it added to it, which is really neat. So it's got the, so R4 was a regular color through the year, but it was only available on Charger and Swinger 340. But they made it available later in the year on the Coronet and the Super B 6-pack, so basically the A12 car. But Bahama Yellow was 9.6, Bright Green was F6, Hemi Orange was V2. Pretty cool. And then again, as always, these are real samples, you know, using paint from the factory. So if you ever want to get a color match on this, this is really, really nice. I mean, the car is always the best one. Second R4 is the bottom paint. R4 Scorch Red. D2X is the interior code. So D is the very base vinyl trim. 2 is bench seat. X is black. Sorry, little correction here. This actually has the upgraded interior in it. So here's all the GT Sport and GT options. You had way more color combos, way more interesting vinyl and higher end. P stands for premium on there. And here's all the color combos. The swingers in the back here, that's custom. So here's the Swinger 340 and Swinger 2-door hardtop standard trim and the Dart. So the base one was L. So if this would have had the base black vinyl interior, it would have been L2X, and L is for low. D right here is for deluxe, and this is right here, it says extra cost trim. So the D2X on this car, the black bench seat interior, was extra cost option. I don't think it was very much, but it was a little X. Here's all the two-tone combinations that were available, and then all the combinations, the recommended for exterior color and interior color. So with red, tan was not recommended but available. Black was obviously available, and they said don't get blue. You only get blue with the blue colors, and then white and black exterior color. And as mentioned earlier, so they have the little note right there on bright red that was only available on the 340 Swinger only. You could not get that on anything else. You can get R6 red, which was a much darker red. It was a maroon, but the bright red you could not get. There's the R6 right there. R4 is a much cooler color. R6 is almost maroon. So obviously black interior. X9 is the upper door frame color. So they actually painted those to match the interior on these. 7/02 is the scheduled production date, so that's August 2nd, so very near the end of the year. I don't remember what the last SPD was at Hamtramck in 69, but it was like, I think it was July 18th, so this was built just, you know, a couple weeks before the end of the model year. Very, very late car. Over there, 371536 is the vehicle order number. Next line is G33, so remote mirror. And of course, that was optional right there. Obviously, the mirror's not on there right now, but it had an optional remote mirror on it. Here's the equipment order sheet right here. Left outside rear mirror was optional on everything, and then the right side mirror was also optional. You did get the Prismatic day-night mirror was standard on the model. R11 is AM radio. Again, radios were always optional on these things. You always had to pay extra for those. Only 2 available radios on a Dart, R11 Music Master, which ours has, and the R21 AM FM was optional. That was a pretty expensive option too. V8X is the Bumblebee stripe that we showed you before. And EN1 is end of codes for the first line at the Hamtramck plant. A couple of notes on the data book that I thought were interesting. So they actually bragged about the repositioned lock button. So they, in 68, they had the lock button was all the way in the back of the door right there. And on a hardtop, it was pretty easy just to reach in there, separate it, and unlock it. And it also will unlock. So if you lock it and try to lock the door and shut it, it will unlock, so you don't lock yourself in there. But they moved the door button ahead for security, basically. So it was harder to break into. Also back here is specs. Here are the shipping weights for the different cars. I just thought this was kind of interesting. The Dart Swinger was 3,100 pounds. I'm not sure where the, 200 pounds more than the Swinger V8. That's probably some of the heavy duty package and, some of that kind of stuff. The GT Sport was 3,135. The convertible was a little bit heavier. Convertibles are always a bit heavier. And don't forget, the Dart Swinger 340 was part of the Scat Pack. You want to be a member of the Scat Pack, the Dart 340 qualifies. Here's the Dart Swinger 340 in the book. It came with a standard with a bright aluminum grille. Dart Swinger on the standard bumblebee stripe. Stripe may be deleted. Dart Swinger remains. Dart on the front fenders. Simulated intake ports on hood. Red reflectors on sides of rear fenders. Amber reflectors on sides of the front. Body sill molding optional. Drip rail wheellet moldings optional. Hubcaps are standard. Wheel covers are optional and extra cost. I'm assuming this one was probably a dog dish car. Just looking how low option it is. But I like the small wheel Kragers, so they're going to stay for now. Yeah, there's what the upholstery is supposed to look like on it with the optional higher end with the pleated seats, which is actually pretty similar to what's in there right now. Again, really clean in here. Still has the big torsion bars, sway bar still there. It has a little bit, I don't know what they were doing here. Something's cut right there. I'm not sure what they were doing, but somebody messed that up a little bit. Core support's got a little booger right there too, but all in all, this thing's really, really clean car. There's hardly any issues with this. By the way, I believe the second horn was optional too. You actually had to pay for the second horn, and this only has one, so I'm pretty sure that's how it came from the factory. This thing is really clean. You really can't see, really any rust on it whatsoever. Quarter panels, it's got a few dings and dents on it, but really, really clean car. All the way around here. As I said, there's no popping, like no bubbles and that stuff. They started doing body work on it at some point, but they never really got it finished. Underneath here, so they got front torque box right there, which is pretty cool. So the torque boxes were standard on convertibles, but most of the 340 cars got them too, and it really adds a lot of stiffness to the car. So that right there is what's called the torque box. So it basically ties in the front torque bar cross member and the frame of the car. It adds a lot of stiffness. That has the front and rear ones here too. And it's not like, sometimes these got missed on these cars. So see that big hole there? That's the rear torque box right there that's welded in there. They got missed a lot on these things. Some got front, some got back, some didn't get either, but it's pretty cool. You can tell how original this car is by seeing that there. And it's got the 8 3/4 rear end. Of course, that was standard with a 340 in these years. A-body 8 3/4 is getting pretty hard to find, so that's a pretty nice piece right there. For some reason, it doesn't have a trunk lock. Not sure why, but I'm sure most of you car guys know this little trick, but you put a screwdriver in there and there's no trunk lock. You just have to twist it and open it up. So if you don't have a trunk key, that's usually the easiest thing to do, is just to pop out the lock and then you can open it. So see that little slot right there? That's what you put the screwdriver in, twist it, and she opens right up. Every time I check the trunk, I was looking for trunk treasures. This didn't really have anything. Everything in here I put in here, but there's some good stuff. So original cast iron intake there, 325/69. So I'm pretty sure that's the original intake that came off of it. Original 340 exhaust manifolds. Those are really nice to have. Getting really, really hard to find. 68 to 70, 340 only, and they flowed really, really well. Super high performance manifolds, really hard to find. You can see it's super solid back here too. The spare well down here is a spot where they always seem to rust, because that's where the water kind of ended up. It was really good. We found this transmission sitting in the dirt pile in front of it, and it's the numbers matching transmission 431840, which matches the VIN up here. Okay, so that's funny, the stuff you see while filming. The VIN is one off, and I'm pretty sure that's probably a misstep on the transmissions. This is 438814 on the transmission back here. It is 431840. So
Maybe I'm reading that wrong, but I'm guessing that's probably just a misstamp from the factory. When usually one digit off like that, the chances of finding another one that the 5 digits match on it are almost 0. So I'm pretty sure that was just misstamp from the factory. We did find the numbers matching transmission engine too. Unfortunately, it was also sitting in the dirt pile in front of this, sitting outside in the rain. That one went straight to the machine shop after we got home. So I'd love to show you some pictures of that. I do show that in the other video of the estate sale. So if you want to see more pictures of the numbers matching 340, you can do that. It was pretty rough. We're going to have our machine shop tumble it, magnaflux it, make sure everything's good on it, and then we can make sure we got a good transmission before we go any further on this thing. So next step is to clean out the interior, because there's a lot of parts I don't know if we have or not. Like I haven't seen a Z-bar, I haven't seen a down bar. So goal here is to get the interior cleaned up so I can basically see what we got here. Base steering wheel there, very, very base. I was kind of wondering if I was looking at this, if that was a standard wheel, because I thought that was first out in 70, but it looks like I was wrong. So that's the standard wheel. They had that optional with the half horn ring, full horn ring, and then you get a wood grain wheel here. But obviously this car is way too cheap to get the wood grain. Has the 4-speed reverse light on the dash, which is always a nice touch. AM radio card, that's not all cut up, which is really nice. Shows 30,000 miles on it. I doubt that's 30,000, but it might be 130,000. 340 air cleaner right there, which is really nice. Unsilenced, those are very hard to find. What do we got here? All right, I need to go grab like a milk crate or something to put this stuff in, because I gotta get this stuff all in one place and keep it organized. I mean, obviously when I took the car home, I took a peek in here, but I really haven't gone through here with a fine-tooth comb. So well, let's see what's in here. Let's see what we can find. I don't even, oh, that's a tack. Huh, interesting. That's kind of cool. 8K Suntac, looks almost brand new. I really prefer the factory service manuals, but yeah, these have some interesting information in them. Dart and Challenger, they cover a lot of ground. Actually has a 69 Dart on the front, neat. Also says 6 cylinders. I don't know if that doesn't cover the 340 or not. I am not sure about that. Really ghetto dash cap. Yeah, don't buy these for your car. They're junk and they look terrible and don't really add anything to it. Honestly, that should just go right in the garbage. I don't even know why I'm putting it in the trunk. All right, let me get this 340 air cleaner out of here. I'll put this in the trunk, get it out of the way. Although technically, I actually don't think that's the right air cleaner for it. Oh, there goes the pie tin. This is supposed to have the smaller unsilenced. This is the big unsilenced 340. Neat piece though. I'll probably grab the correct one for it. I got a few out back. There's the remote mirror. It's not currently on the car. So I think they were starting to do body work on this thing. I think that's what they were doing. That's like a wiper motor cam. That's the door or window crank handle. I'm gonna grab a plastic bag because I want to save all these little screws so these don't get lost. Armrest base. That little thing's for the clutch rod linkage that clips on top of the pedal for the down rod to hold that on. It's a little bit bent though. They do reproduce these, but the originals are spring steel and the aftermarket ones just don't really seem to hit as hard. They just always seem to fall off. At least that's been my experience with it. That little plastic thing, might be wondering what that is. That's a cover for the fuse box, which I can't remember where it is on a 69. I think it's underneath the dash somewhere, but that's like a weather shield for the fuse box. So if the wiper pivot seal's leaking, they pretty much leak on 100% of the time on these. You have a little bit of protection there. Window trim in here, which isn't too bad, except for the top piece of the windshield is really, really long. Makes this really hard to like store anything. I had to be careful putting it in here because I didn't want to like tear up the door panels or something with it in there. Yeah, I'll get in the trunk in there. It's a safe spot for it where it's out of the way. That stainless trim is so easy to bend. You don't want to bend it. Ooh, a wind intake. That's a good piece. Extra grill they had in there. Looks pretty nice. It's been all painted black, which isn't right, but let's say it's in decent shape. Let's see if we can squeeze that in here and get it out of the way. Yeah, perfect. New headlight switch in there. Of course, these are headlight and dimmer in one. Some cars like the Charger use a separate one, but that was inside the YN intake. Chrysler Power, Duarte, California. This YN intake is pretty neat. He had a ton of aluminum intakes. It actually says So when it says say Y-end, that means it's a pretty early one. They went away from that pretty quick. The brand got big enough where people knew how to pronounce the Y-end. But the 7507, looks like the center thing's been cut there, but that's a good performance intake. So, you know, rebuilding the original motor, putting that on there, be a nice little performance upgrade. The cast iron intakes weigh a ton too. I save a bunch of weight putting aluminum on there. There's the 4-speed hump there. I'm assuming the intake was there to kind of cover that up. It looks like a carburetor probably. Let's see. Yes, carburetor. I'm sure that's the one that probably came off of it. Just an Elbrock. Nothing super fancy there. Not sure what those bolts are for. Probably like tranny the car or something. There's the original, well, I say original bracket, but that's got kickdown linkage on it, which obviously 4-speed wouldn't have. So I'm not sure what the application is for that. Just miscellaneous fasteners. That's the transmission cross member bolts there. Yeah, I put a Raider back there. I need to pull that out so I have a little room to get in here. That's the adjuster rod from the clutch fork to the Z-bar. It's a good piece to have. There's the clutch fork that goes in the bell housing. There is alternator bracket right there. All right, let me pull this radiator out so I have a little more room to work back here. So I tried to find the original radiator. I could not find it. So this is the closest I could find. So it's a 68 A-body 340 radiator. It's basically the same radiator, but they had to change the part number every year. I don't know why. It does have a tranny cooler in it, so it probably came out automatic. But if I can't find the correct one for it, this one will bolt right in. So I saved this one for the car. That's actually the Challenger rear window, which I'll go put in the car now, so don't forget about it. There's the original dash cover for the Challenger 2. I don't know why they took that off. They pulled the whole dash out. I mean, you know, race car, but I'm not sure why they pulled all that apart. Not a big fan of these energy suspension kits, but it was in the car, so I threw it in there. Problem is they're polyurethane and they just tend to squeak like crazy no matter what you do. It's very annoying. Looks like most of the seat belts are back here. There's alternator brackets. That stuff's nice to have. Here's some shifter rods. I hope those are the right ones for the car. I'm gonna have to go on Brewer's website and double check, but they look like they're right to me. Because again, I got the transmission, but now I gotta piece it all back together. All right, I'm gonna put that window in the Challenger and get it out of the way. There's the driver door panel. Looks like they obviously cut that for speakers at some point. Bunch of fastener cans back here, which I guess is good. That's a lot of lug nuts. See, I don't think this is for the car though. I think this is just like, I don't know, maybe it is. Like a lot of generic fasteners though. Maybe you can store them in here. I've not looked for a broadcast sheet yet. I gotta pull the rear seat to do that. So I may do that in a little bit here. We'll see. All right, this side's cleaned out. Time to go to the other side. Of course, nothing was with this car because this guy loved just taking stuff apart, but there's a 52269 on a July build date for that's the 90-degree adapter for the oil filter to clear the exhaust manifold. So I'll leave that in the trunk. Mouse nest. Windage tray. This was something I got out of the estate. So you paid 25 bucks for it. So I didn't see the windage tray with the motor. I'm trying to get all the motor stuff back here, of course, except for the grill because it's huge and out in the way. I got the cross member here, a couple of radiator hoses that I probably won't use and just throw away, but I'm not going to because that's not how I work. Pretty sure that's the right cross member. Guess we'll find out when the motor goes in. You know, I haven't looked for a broadcast sheet yet, but it's kind of bothering me. I may have to pull this rear seat because, well, if you know me that much, I just have to know if there's a broadcast sheet or not. See, it's kind of hard to tell if this is for the car or not. So there's a door lock with a key, but it has door locks, so I don't know if that's for this car or not. And there's some good stuff in there. There's some screws. That's a U-joint strap for the drive shaft. There's a door lock knob, which again is on the car. So I'm not sure this is for the car or not, but I'm just gonna leave it with it. Put pin lanyard too. The key did not work in the door, so it's not for this car, but yeah, spares. More stuff I found at the house. So extra dash cluster, headlight bezels. I think that's slant 6 timing cover, which is 1 year only 69. These are actually quite hard to find. I think that's a spring for the seat, which is broken. And then 4-speed boot and
cover. That's kind of nice to have. I don't think I ever actually checked the glove box. Yeah, there's no liner, so it's kind of hard to have any paperwork in there when there's no glove box liner. Yeah, I couldn't stand it. I gotta vacuum it out. I just hate having all that gross stuff in there. Generally, my standard line on these is, that looks like 5% better. Actually, it looks way better than that now. I think that's actually original carpet too. Just looking at it, the way it's wearing, pretty sure it's original. That looks way better now. All right, I checked underneath the front seat and there's a giant mouse nest underneath there, but I couldn't see a broadcast sheet, but this is bothering me. So I'm gonna pull the rear seat and see if there's a broadcast sheet back there. Wait, sometimes these rear seats fight you like crazy. This one actually came out pretty easy. This is a Hamtramck built car, which is, I've had pretty good luck with broadcast sheets in, but keep in mind, somebody might have been here before. So there's definitely no broadcast sheet there. Oh, that's kind of cool. There's the, let me get this out, I'll show you that. So that's cool. That's the trim identification card with the internal part number for the factory. It says "so" here right there. Usually those don't, usually those go away. Yep, no broadcast sheet. So let's check the top, because a lot of times on Hamtramck cars will be on the top and not on the bottom. I'm actually surprised. The mouse nest in here is not that bad, but I'm still gonna vacuum it out real quick before I pull the back seat. Back seat just has little tabs over here that hold it in, so you just gotta bend those over and pull it out. Although I'm gonna have to pull the armrest. Well, just trying to see if there's a broadcast sheet or not. I stand corrected. It actually has a bolt. The B bodies actually have a little tab that you have to bend over, but apparently the A bodies have a bolt, which is really, this is a much better setup. Bolts out. Pull the seat up. Oh wow, broadcast sheet. Broadcast sheet. Broadcast sheet. That's awesome. All right, is it for the right car? Well, this is a bit of a letdown, I'll be honest with you. Apparently the interior has been changed, which I'll show you the data book here in a minute what the interior is supposed to look like. Here's kind of what the bench looked like. So it did have pleated. I don't know, that front seat looks really similar, but the fact I found a 72 scamp broadcast sheet in the back seat and it matches the front, I think it's probably been changed. And this is the broadcast sheet out of a 72 Duster. It was a GY8 gold slant 6. Oh no, scamp, sorry, not Duster, it was out of a scamp. Sales bank car, US order. Wah, wah, wah. Well, I'll be honest, that's a bit of a disappointment. And I should have recognized that because the headrests are later. But basically a 72 Scamp is basically a Dart swinger, just later. So yeah, so this whole seats are out of a 72 Scamp instead of the right one. Bummer. Well, as Jeremy Clarkson would say, on that terrible disappointment, well, honestly, it's not a terrible disappointment because this thing is a super solid 344 speed head 69 Dart swinger. I love this thing. It is really, really clean. I know everybody's question is going to be, what are your plans with it? Well, I actually just bought another 340. So a friend of mine had a complete 7340 for sale for a couple $1,000s in California. I just bought that, so my intention is to put it in this. I'm still missing a few parts. I don't know where the bell housing is. I don't know where the flywheel is. We don't have a drive shaft yet. So next time I go down to the estate, which is honestly probably going to be a week or two because Six Pack Fury TT is trying to get finished right now in there. And we have like 3 weeks till McCacken, so that's going to be the priority for the time being. But you know, I do have a couple customers who are very interested in this thing. It may just go to one of them. I may put a 340 in it and just drive the heck out of it as it is. I haven't quite decided yet. Usually I had a better answer for you. We'll see what happens in a couple weeks with this thing. I may just try to spend a weekend, put the 340 in and get it running, because I think that would be awesome and be really, really fun car. So, all right, well, I want to thank everybody for watching. Really appreciate it. This is Tom from Rocket Restorations, and we'll talk to you soon.